Coming up around the nation, it's Celebration Bowl week, and they've sold out in Atlanta for the first time. Who's going to finish on top? Will it be Jackson State as Coach Prime brings the SWAC champions to Atlanta, trying to derail a MEAC foe in South Carolina State, who is trying to continue the dominance in the only HBCU bowl game? The bus is cranked up and we're ready to roll. We heading to the ATL on the HBCU Sports Nation, and we're pulling out now.
Black Island Blue. Ride, come on. Black College, stand up. HBCU.
Greetings, boys and girls. I'm your boy, Mark Gray. Thanks for hanging out with us as we hit the road on the HBCU Sports Nation. All roads lead to the ATL if you're an HBCU sports fan this week, as the Celebration Bowl, for the first time in history, it has sold out. That's right. So there'll be more than 50,000 fans in seats watching this game this week between Jackson State and all that Deion Sanders brings back to him. Coach Prime, who began his career in Atlanta with the Falcons and the Braves, who in my formative years as a journalist got a chance to cover, is literally going home. But what he's going to run into when he gets there is a South Carolina State team that is familiar with those environments, that is not going to back down from anybody. And in the trenches, where the MEAC has been dominating in that game, South Carolina State can more than step up to the challenge of playing with the Tigers. Tigers got all the hype and the attention. The Bulldogs figure to bring a workmanlike lunch pail approach to Atlanta, and it should make for an interesting game. How's it going to play out? Back on the other side, we're going to talk with two insiders. Charles Bishop from the, with two E's, pregame show in Jackson, and Luke Williams of the Black College Sports page. They join us next as we break it down for real on the HBCU Sports Nation.
Black Island Blue. Ride, come on. Black College, stand up. HBCU.
And we continue our countdown to the Celebration Bowl with two guys who've been on the inside of the SWAC and the MEAC all season long. Joining us right now, representing for the homies in the SWAC, our good friend from Inside the Lab and the two E's, as in Megan Thee Stallion, pregame show in JSU country. He is Charles Bishop, and of course, the guru of all things Black college sports, the editor and good friend of the program, Luke Williams from the Black College Sports page. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing well, Mark. It's always fun to be on with you, brother.
Same, ditto for me, Mark.
All right, let's get right to the heart of the matter. MEAC versus SWAC, South Carolina State versus Jackson State. To me, I think it's a delicious matchup, if for no other reason than we got new blood in that game. Even before we get to the X's and O's and the Jimmys and Joes, just to have, fresh meat in this classic, what do you think that means, guys? Let's kick it off with you, Luke.
Well, no North Carolina A&T, no Alcorn State. You're right. It's all fresh blood, new meat. Very interesting that given this matchup, the proximity of South Carolina State to Atlanta, Georgia, and the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, as well as the hype that is connected with Jackson State, has already made this game a sellout, unheard of in the 6-year history of the Celebration Bowl. So, yes, I think it's a delicious matchup for any number of reasons. Obviously, Jackson State comes in probably be a heavy favorite. I think I saw one line that was 13 plus 13 with Jackson State, which is, I figure, about right based on what the teams have done, based on what they've done against common opponents. They should come in as a heavy favorite. But yeah, I think just having the new blood there and the excitement that's around Jackson State and Deion Sanders should make this an exciting ball game.
Hey, Charles, I know a lot of people in Jackson have been dying at the bit to get to this contest. Can you talk about what that means in that community right now?
I mean, when you talk about Jackson State football, it is a pro football type fervor in the city of Jackson when you're talking about Jackson State football. So to get to the pinnacle of what is HBCU success, the Celebration Bowl, this means the world for the Jackson State football community. And the fan fervor is just through the roof right now. I mean, I've had ticket requests all 2 weeks since Jackson State has won the SWAC championship. And like I said, it's first time ever there's been a sellout in the Celebration Bowl. Jackson State, the Tiger Nation will be in attendance at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Luke, did you ever think that we would see a sellout? I mean, we talking about a 70,000 seat stadium, man. We talking about a huge behemoth of a building. I mean, I think next to probably Jerry World and SoFi Stadium, it may be the largest building right now in the NFL, and it's sold out for a black college bowl game. Did you ever think you'd see that in the 50 years or so you've been watching our sport?
No, first of all, Mark, I'm not sure that they're opening all 70,000 seats. I'm not sure. And I don't know if Charles knows the exact. Previously, they've not opened the top level of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And I think when they say sold out, and they talked about selling, and I've seen the notice that they put out a release, I think yesterday, saying that they're selling another 1,000 SRO, standing room only tickets. Now, what I think this means is that if Jackson State continues to come to the Celebration Bowl, they're going to have to open that top rung for the whole thing. But right now, I didn't think other than that. And let's be clear. It takes a Deion Sanders, Coach Prime environment that is on fire, not only at Jackson State, but I think it's got all of HBCU fans on fire to try to get this kind of response to the Celebration Bowl. And listen, historically, whether it's been the Heritage Bowl or the Celebration Bowl, the best crowds have been the first crowds, and the crowds have dwindled after that. So in version number 6, for there now to be a sellout of even the lower level of the, as you said, the cavernous Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a great leap forward, and I think it only portends good things for the future.
Charles, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you talk sellout, you're talking about from the tickets that are available, that standpoint. But undoubtedly, you cannot take anything away from the prime effect. But I will say this about Jackson State's fan base: they've led FCS in attendance for a reason. I think that they would have, even without prime, it would have still been a large contingent of Jackson State fans making it to Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl. And it just is what it is. It is a complete fervor around this football team. You add prime, and the fact that Jackson State is actually good again, that goes a long, long way. They have not been a good football team since 2013. So you have a perfect groundswell of things going on for Jackson State football this season, going into the Celebration Bowl.
Hey, let me add this, Mark. Jackson State, you're right. Jackson State has been the perennial leader in attendance, but Jackson State has probably never had 54,000 for homecoming, have they, Charles?
Well, this was the first year that they've had 50 some odd thousand for homecoming. So they normally run those crowds when you're talking about Southern or Alcorn, something to that effect. But 54,000 for homecoming for Alabama State, yeah, that was something different.
And 58,000 for Alcorn State. Alcorn and Jackson has always been a great draw, but 58,000, and then to break the record for the SWAC championship game, which was played right there in Jackson, 3 plus 50 crowds in that home stadium, brother, is I think is very, very noteworthy, and I think it is the prime effect.
Yeah, prime effect means that, as a 1AA program, FCS in this world order, that you can basically fill an old school NFL stadium with an HBCU crowd today, which is just incredible for where we are in this landscape. Before we get to the X's and O's and Jimmys and Joes, let's talk about this because there are a lot of people that are talking right now about FCS playoffs versus Celebration Bowl. Which vibe do you get is more important to the players right now, guys? Would they rather play, and I'm speaking specifically of the African-American blue chip athlete, is he now thinking, I would really like to play in the HBCU bowl game or try to run after an FCS championship?
You first, Charles.
No, I was waiting to listen, Luke. Well, I think it's a very unique situation with regards to Jackson State football this year. You have a lot of guys who transferred to Jackson State who wanted this opportunity to play in front of African American people. So I think there's that dynamic that goes into it, and they have been sold basically Celebration Bowl since they've gotten here. That the Celebration Bowl is the pinnacle of what they want. You to go to a bowl game in front of an African American community, and all throughout the course of the season, it has been sort of a revelation to them that Black people can attend football games the way that they've been doing, especially with regards to Jackson State football. So they have enjoyed this experience, and now to get this bowl game experience with Celebration Bowl, I think it bodes well for future African American athletes looking at HBCU.
I think, Mark, what's happening is that these players, these blue chippers or whoever is coming to these schools, they're willing to follow these coaches like a Coach Prime, like an Eddie George, like an Eddie Robinson, wherever they want to take them. They are trusting Jackson State. They're trusting particularly Coach Prime. They're saying, listen, Coach Prime says he's going to get me to the leg. Coach Prime said he's going to make sure that they're going to be Black players drafted, Black college players drafted, that they're going to be coming from the HBCUs. I don't even think they're focused on Celebration Bowl versus 1AA playoffs. They will go anywhere that these guys who've been there and done that are ready to take them, whether it's an Eddie George, whether it's Eddie George at Tennessee State. They don't have any Celebration Bowl to talk about, so whether it be 1AA playoffs or FCS playoffs, whether it be whatever other heights that those guys that they're trusting with their futures lead them to. I think that's what the issue is today. Nobody's even focused on, look, Coach Sanders has spent the whole year talking about, I don't want to be on ESPN 13. I don't want to be on ESPN 14 and 15. Why can't we be on ESPN, the main ESPN? Why can't our game be mentioned along with the other bowl games that are being played around the country? So he is at almost every point from the beginning of the season all the way through this season has been really heightening the discussion in terms of raising the bar for HBCU sports. So I think that's where these kids are now. They are trusting the coaches to take them wherever they want to lead them.
Interesting that you bring that up, Luke, because we've had some seismic shifting in the SWAC, if you will, as it relates to coaching jobs. Let's talk about, first off, Eric Dooley getting the job at Southern University. Looks like Jaguar Nation trying to go back to the halcyon days of Pete Richardson, which wasn't really revered, shall we say, until a long time, 2 decades later. But Dooley going back to Southern and coming off a difficult job at Prairie View, how does that fit?
I think you got it right, Mark. I think that not only his hiring at Southern, but Eddie Robinson's hiring at Alabama State. Talk about halcyon days. You remember Houston Markham? Yes, Alabama State was a beast under Houston Markham with Eddie Robinson on that team. So, yeah, I think everybody's trying to reach back and find, that special something that got them to the top of the heap. And, of course, they're looking at what Deion Sanders was able to do in only a year and a half at the controls. And they want somebody who can bring similar magic to them. And I believe Eric Dooley does harken back to the days of Pete Richardson when Southern was the king of the SWAC, or at least right there amongst the kings during his, I think it was 17 years at Southern. So I think that the Eddie Robinson hire is a similar kind of situation.
What about you, Dooley and Southern, Charles? Great fit. Does that send shivers, if you will, through the rest of the league, or is that just a thing?
No, I think it's a good cultural fit. When you talk about Eric Dooley, he's quite familiar with the Southern program. Like you said, he's a disciple of Pete Richardson from the Pete Richardson tree. But when you take a look at the success that he's had in SWAC, be it at Arkansas Pine Bluff, be it at Grambling, at Prairie View, and now Southern gets pretty much the hottest name, I would think, that has been within this HBCU stratosphere. But when you take a look at what Coach Dooley brings, I mean, he has intimate knowledge of a recruiting hotbed that is New Orleans. So for Southern to be able to tap back in to New Orleans athletes, I think that's going to be huge for them. So I think, based on the amount of success that he's had in the SWAC, it's a great cultural fit. When you take a look at Eddie Robinson, you are reaching back in to try to rekindle those Houston Markham days when they had those great teams. But, I had, a couple of assistant coaches tell me, you have about 7 or 8 games to make that splash within your alumni fan base. And at that point, they've made their decision with you, whether it's good or bad. So you better get there and you better win early. So I think Hugh Jackson is definitely going to see that at Grambling, and Eddie Robinson is going to get a good taste of it at Alabama State as well.
And that's where I wanted to go next, to the northern part of Virginia, with Hugh Jackson, the former NFL assistant coach, offensive coordinator, formerly head coach in Cleveland, in Cincinnati, formerly offensive coordinator in Cleveland. Had a cup of coffee as a coach the last time the Raiders had a winning record out there. How does that fit in in Grambling, Charles? How do you think that personality plays in that environment? Because, you want to talk about a place with reverence that often gets in the way of itself. I may make a case that sometimes Grambling's history is almost its worst nightmare.
Is a very unique place. You're talking about tradition, excellence through the years. And, a coach really has to get into that community and ingratiate themselves with Louisiana high school coaches, and then leverage that, on that national platform that Grambling has always had. So it's going to be very interesting. Hugh Jackson, of course, has a tremendous resume, quarterback whisperer. It'll be very interesting to see what he can do with their freshman phenom, Noah Biden, down there. But it has to be a unique cultural fit. And that's what I'm really looking at with regards to Hugh Jackson being there, because, it's nothing for the Grambling community to, become insular, if you will, and really block out those from the outside. So that's going to be a very interesting look-see to see how he ingratiates himself into that Grambling football history, that lore, and see what he can do with that.
Luke, before I let you go, talk about those navigational intangibles that make that more of a challenging job, especially for somebody like Hugh Jackson.
Well, the name of the game in HBCU coaching sphere right now is NFL experience. How close are you to the NFL experience? How much can you lure players to your campus based on the possibility of getting a good look-see on the next level? And if you look at Eddie George, Coach Prime, Eddie Robinson, and now Hugh Jackson, if the one thing they all have in common right now is NFL experience, whether it be as players or as coaches. And I think that, when these ADs are looking around now, and remember, there's an opening at Prairie View A&M, I think that they should think about what got Prairie View out of the doldrums and back into the upper echelon of the SWAC. His name was Henry Frazier. He came from the CIAA, and he came from Bowie State. Well, guess what Bowie State's coach has done over the last 4 or 5 years? How about 3 straight CIAA championships? How about 4 straight Division II playoff berths? If Henry Frazier is smart and he's Dr. Henry Frazier now, he'd be calling the Prairie View people, telling them about his successor at Bowie State, and saying that, there's a story that Henry Frazier called Prairie View when they were in the midst of their losing streak and said, when you're ready to end the losing streak and get back to your halcyon days of Billy Nix and the likes, call me at Bowie State. And he went there, and that's what he did. He turned around the program. So, Damon Wilson does not have that NFL cachet, if you will, but he definitely has shown that he's a winner. I think his Prairie View is making a choice. They may look to see who they can grab that has NFL experience, but I think it would be smart of them to give Damon Wilson a call.
And he has worked in the SWAC before as well, guys. Give me a prediction now. All right, Charles, I think we know what side of the ledger are you on. Luke, how you seeing the Celebration Bowl play out?
Well, I think that South Carolina State, giving Buddy Pugh a month to prepare for this game, is going to throw everything he can, the kitchen sink and everything else at Jackson State. I think he's going to take a cue from Prairie View A&M. The fact that Shedeur Sanders, who I thought was the most competent, exciting player, should have won Player of the Year offensively in the SWAC. He was held to only 85 yards passing, a first game under 200 yards for the season. I think that South Carolina State is going to employ a similar defensive strategy, make Jackson State beat you on the ground. But the reality is Jackson State can beat you more ways than just passing the ball, as they showed with Prairie View. They can beat you in special teams. They have dynamic special teams players. And they have shown, even though they've struggled all year, I was looking at my stats. I did a little Celebration Bowl yardstick. They were actually last in the SWAC in rushing, less than 100 yards a game. Peyton Pickett stepped up in the SWAC championship game and had perhaps his best game of the season, their best game on the ground. If they can repeat that, and if they can get anything near what Shedeur Sanders has done this year, I think it'll be a walk in the park for Jackson State. But if South Carolina State is able to replicate what Prairie View did and not give up a kickoff return touchdown, not give up a defensive touchdown, the game could be close. We could be seeing a monumental upset. I wouldn't bet on South Carolina State, but I wouldn't bet that they will be any further defeated than Prairie View was. I think we talked about before we went on air, there's a 13-point spread. I think it should probably be in that way if things play out as they are supposed to play out.
I would take the under on that. What do you think, Charles?
Just as Buddy Pugh's had a month to prepare for Jackson State, I think if you give Dennis Thurman 2 weeks to prepare for any team, that is more than enough. We have sat down in team meetings and sat down in film room with him. The way he and Dion and that defensive staff can really carve up teams from a defensive standpoint, it's almost a TED talk to watch and listen to them really dissect teams. So I think it's just going to be tough for South Carolina State to score on a consistent basis. The only team that we've seen score 21 points all season on Jackson State was Texas Southern, and that was done in the first half of the game. Jackson State, I believe, you have to go all the way back to the Mississippi Valley State game to see a team that's even scored in the fourth quarter on Jackson State. So I think if you really rest on this defense and allow the defense, allow the offense to just get what they can get, I think they're going to be able to move the ball. Like you said, they were forced to run the ball a little bit more than probably they would have liked in the SWAC championship game. But Peyton Pickett has proved that he is somebody who can step up, as well as J.D. Martin and Santi Marshall. So I think Jackson State's running game, although it's been last in the SWAC, they have more than enough athletes to get it done if that's how it has to be done. So I'm looking forward to Jackson State's defense really coming out and making Corey Fields, try to matriculate the ball downfield however he can. I know he's a dynamic athlete with regards to using his arms and his legs, but it's going to be very interesting to see if South Carolina State can actually do something no SWAC team has done, and that's just move the ball consistently up and down the field.
Keep your eye mark on Kendro Flowers, the running back from South Carolina State. If he's able to get off, he's a legit talent at running back. I'm not sure that I'm not sure that maybe Jackson State has faced a back of his caliber. He's a young guy, but very talented. I think he's going to be key, as well as the wide receiver for South Carolina State, 6'5", 215, Shaquan Davis. They call him Shaq Davis. May be the most talented and gifted athletically wide receiver in HBCU football. Jackson State's going to certainly have to contain him also.
Yeah, I think that, the formula for Jackson State all season, and this is coming from Dennis Sermon, is number one, stop the run. So they will be loaded for bear to try to stop Kendra Flowers. He is a tough running back, but they've done it all season. They've proven it all season. They can stop the running game, and then they get an opportunity to do what they're the best in the nation at, and that's pin their ears back and come after the quarterback. 53 sacks going into this game. So I think if you can put South Carolina State into some third and distance situations, it plays into the hands of Jackson State.
All right, I need to do some cross promotion right here. How about a sure shot for me, fellas? I'm gonna set a betting line, so I'm gonna tap into my Mark the Greek inner child. If I set the betting line or the point spread, let's say the over under at 46.5, do we go over and under in this game?
I'd say under.
Really?
I'll take the over.
Okay, I like that. So we'll reconvene post game and see who got it right, and we will have some lovely gifts from the Broyhill collection, and maybe if I'm lucky, I can get a bag from Zinman Furs in Camden, New Jersey, because your line was right. How about that?
That's a bet.
Thank you. We'll take it.
Anyway, thanks a lot, Charles Bishop from the pregame show at Jackson, my brother from another mother, and of course, Luke Williams, my granddad from another grandma. Always a pleasure to have y'all in the house here as we rock on, counting down to the Celebration Bowl kickoff here on Smash Entertainment's HBCU Sports Nation. Thanks a lot, fellas. Look forward to seeing y'all in the ATL. Travel safely.
Black out and move. Ride, come on. Black college, stand up. HBCU.
Upon further review, let me give plaudits, platitudes, kudos, and big props for those of you of a certain age to outgoing Mideastern Athletic Conference Commissioner Dennis Thomas. Now, there are a myriad of things that I've disagreed with during the course of his tenure as commissioner of the conference, but I will say this. The Celebration Bowl was his idea and his baby. And long before Deion Sanders brought the hype and the vision and the attention to black college football, it was people like he, Dr. Thomas, Ken Free, and Dr. James Frank, who all came together and wanted to make sure that black colleges had their own postseason game. And the beauty of it right now is if you go to a HBCU, you can still contend for a national championship and not have to deal with the playoffs. I can only remember if I was between 17 and 19 years old being heavily recruited by a college university or a major college program, and I had the opportunity to go play in a bowl game from a conference or go to the FCS playoffs, and it's a black college bowl game, no doubt about it, I'm going to the SWAC. Why? Because a bowl game is a reward. The FCS playoffs are work. A bowl game, parties, accolades, gifts. FCS playoffs, work, travel, pain. Moral to the story is, for as much as we want to talk about pro coaches coming back to HBCUs and leading programs, they're only as good as the players that they can recruit. And now, blue chip black athletes want to play in the black college bowl games. And y'all FCS proponents going to just have to deal with that because there's a seismic shift that's changing. And the big carrot that HBCUs have that FCS programs don't is the fact that you can kick it in the ATL for a week, leave home with a goodie bag, and play on national TV. To me, that's as sure shot as it gets. I'm Mark Gray. Thanks for hanging out with us. Don't forget to join me on HSRN this week for exclusive podcasts from the Celebration Bowl beginning this Thursday, we've got the national pregame show, which leads into our exclusive coverage of the Celebration Bowl between South Carolina State and Jackson State. And I'll wrap it up with another live, local, and late-breaking podcast following the game. So keep it locked right here for all the news that's fit to talk about from the HBCU National Championship game, the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta. Till next week, I'm Mark Gray. We look forward to seeing you around the HBCU Sports Nation. As always, don't forget, like this, follow us, and subscribe so you'll be in the know on what you need to know around the HBCU Sports Nation.
1, 2, 3, hit it! Black Island.